It's with great pride and honor that I'm here to introduce the next two athletes to the Zeeland Hall of Fame. It's not unheard of, but it is not a common occurrence either that siblings reach this level of success. In this case, I believe it goes a stage beyond that, and I feel compelled to acknowledge the rest of the clan. When I arrived back in Zeeland and was given my dream job of coaching wrestling at Zeeland, I was blessed with a nucleus of athletes that were the heart and soul of Zeeland wrestling for the 1970s. It began with Keith and Dave. They had started the tradition and had graduated the year prior to my coming back. Steve was my first co-captain, and he was a state qualifier. Dan followed, and in spite of serious bouts with asthma, was able to contribute very significantly as well. Now, Diane didn't wrestle, to the best of my knowledge, but some people have told me she probably was the best athlete in the family. At any rate, that brings me to Terry and Kay, the parents of this crew. Your children, grandchildren, and even now, great-grandchildren have been an instrumental part to Zeeland athletic success. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure I speak for many other coaches for making our job so much easier. And that brings me to this year's Hall of Fame recipients, Gino and Chucky. I'd like to start with Gene. Gene was my first state champion. He was also my second. He was also, but he did much more than that. The Zeeland Christmas Invitational, as it was originally known, which is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, wrestling tournament of an individual nature in the state, bears his name in recognition. And I'd like to read you what it says on the program that is generally handed out. Gene Robert Kraai graduated from Zeeland High School in June of 1977. There are certain exceptional students in every graduating class who leave a mark behind them. Who and what they are make a significant impact on others. Gene Kraai was one of those people. Everyone loved Gene simply because he loved everybody. He was 6'3" tall, big and strong, and is evidenced by 2 consecutive years as a state wrestling champion. His junior year, he was the 185-pound champ, and his senior year, the 191-pound champ. His photo is in the Zeeland trophy case at Zeeland East. Gene was also an outstanding football player. His senior year, he was given honors as all-conference and all-state honorable mention. His heart was as big as his physique. Gentleness and kindness were an important part of his character. It's for this reason that the Kraai Memorial Tournament is held in his memory. I also have a letter that was sent to him upon his graduation. It tells us a little bit about his character as well. The letter reads as follows. Mrs. Smulligan has told me about the excellent progress you are making in overcoming the problems of dyslexia. You can be very proud because progress means that you have been concentrating very hard, and that shows you are facing very special challenges that confront you. As a dyslexic, I really do understand, but I might never have achieved success if I had allowed disappointment to divert me from my overcoming tough problems. I congratulate you on your recent high school graduation, and I know you will look to the college as another challenge, and I know you won't quit. I'm with you, Gene, and best of luck. This letter was signed Nelson Rockefeller. That's quite an accomplishment for a young man. At any rate, In addition to his state championships, Gene set many high school state school records. He was also named to the Grand Rapids Press All-Star team. He was first team twice and all-state wrestling team also. He was selected as a high school All-American in 1977. In football, he was a state honorable mention. In college, he earned varsity letters in wrestling and football as a freshman. Chuck was the last in the line. You may say he was the Kraai baby. He didn't get the recognition Gene got, but he holds most of the records today. Gene set the records in 1977, and Chuck broke them in 78. For example, best season record, Gene, 39-0. Chuck, the following year, 41-0. Best career record, Gene, 112, 23-1. Chuck, 135, 13-1. Most pins in a season, Gene, 30, Chuck, 36. Most career pins, Gene, 81, Chuck, 86. Fastest pin, Gene, 11 seconds, and he shared that with his older brother Keith for 1 year. Then Chuck, 4 seconds, which was a state record at the same time. Most tournament titles, Gene won 17 tournaments, Chuck won 23. And most of these records still stand 40 years later. His 4-second pin was a state record for many, many years. Seems like yesterday. Chuck also received numerous other awards. He was a 4-time varsity letter winner in wrestling. He was a 3-time all-conference, 3-time regional champion, 2-time took state medals, and he was 2-time Grand Rapids Press all-area member. He also in football was all-conference. He was honorable mention all-state. He was on the Grand Rapids Press all-area team, and he recorded 124 tackles in a single season to set a school record also. In a 1977 tournament, the state champions from each division were asked to compete in a tournament after the state meet. Chuck was invited to go when the Division II champ couldn't. And in the finals of that tournament, Chuck completely destroyed the 40-0 Division I champ 10-3, making him the Tournament of Champions champion. My proudest moment as a wrestling coach came Chuck's senior year. Chuck was well known in wrestling circles, partly because of Gene's success the previous 2 seasons, but mostly because of his own accomplishments. Everyone expected him to win the state title, but that wasn't to be. He was injured as a result of an illegal hold in the semifinals of the state meet and was awarded that match but had to default the next 2. Consequently, he placed 6. When he stood on the award stand with his crutches, an amazing thing happened. As the announcer called out his name, everyone, fans from Detroit, Traverse City, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, and all over the state, recognized him not just for his ability, but for who he was. They all stood and applauded. I've never seen that happen before or since for someone who wasn't on the top step. The whole system, the whole arena didn't stand. In his case, they did, a 6th-place finisher. But that was because Chuck wasn't like other people. He was not an in-your-face winner. He didn't pound his chest after a basket's made as he ran down the court. He didn't dance in the end zone after a touchdown was made. He would often help his opponent to their feet and then shake their hand. He'd walk over to shake hands with the other coach and then come over and shake hands with me and sit down. That was the Chuck Kraai I knew. and wrestling fans around the state grew to appreciate. With that, I give you Chuck Kraai. He'll be accepting his award, and Gene's daughters will be coming up to accept their father's award. Thank you very much. The nerves go away as soon as you start talking.
I love that man. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, Coach Reinsberg, for 4 great years. You set the bar high and brought out the best in each of us. I remember when you put on a wrestling camp at Camp Geneva, and we hauled the mats out there on my dad's hay wagon, going 10 miles an hour out to Camp Geneva. Our goal was to win a state championship for you. And despite coming just a little short, we gave it our all. We always loved your great energy, dedication, always cheering on a wrestler, whether it was for a championship or a JV match. You said a lot of nice things about Gene and myself. Gene was a great wrestler, but even a better friend and brother. I was his biggest fan, and he was mine. I had a lot of people ask me if Gene and I wrestled in a match. The answer is only just in practice, but our best matches were on the barn floor in front of 40 cows. Coach Piersma, thank you for starting as a 104-pound 7th grader, and also for making us wear long underwear pants, shorts, t-shirts, gym shoes for practice. We're looking good, Coach. And also, thanks for being a great football coach. I still have our playbook, though I'm pretty sure I-26, I-27 were the only ones we needed to remember. Fullback leads, knocks out the end, tailback runs for a touchdown. Thanks, Pierce, a lot of great times. Finally, I'd also like to thank my parents for always being there at our wrestling matches, football games, my brothers, sisters for all their support, and the great community of Zeeland that provided this great, great athletic sport that we see here tonight. Some of my highlights: watching my brothers Keith, Dave, Steve's football team being #1 rated at Northfield, watching my brother Dan overcome asthma to wrestle, watching my sister Diane score 22 points in a basketball game, watching my brother Gene and Ron Essink both winning a state wrestling championship, and finally, being a baby of the family, it's my turn. My freshman year, making the varsity lineup as a freshman in wrestling. Sophomore year, going 9-0 in football with Steve Piersma and Bob Lommer as the coaches. In wrestling, winning the regional championship as a team and individual. My junior year, wrestling team beat Granville, who had won 79 meets in a row. The team, after being rated #1 most of the year, finished second in the state by a half a point. My brother Gene was first. Doug Van Duss and I both took second. It was my only loss of the season, losing 1-0 in overtime. I'd like to have that one back. Coach Reinsberg was Coach of the Year. My senior year, football, going 7-2, and being a very good Hudsonville team, 30-19 the last game of the year. Setting wrestling, setting the state record for fastest pin, 4 seconds. Then went to state 38-0. In the third round, I tore my ACL and I had to default to the 6th and had a standing ovation at the medal stand. I had 2 outstanding coaches in Pierceman and Reinsberg and outstanding teammates. It was a lot of fun and I had a lot of great memories. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Rachel, Jean's daughter, up.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am the oldest daughter of Jean Kraai. Sadly, Jean passed away on November 24, 1986 at the young age of 27. This is truly a special night, and I know that my dad would be honored to be inducted into the Zeeland's Athletic Hall of Fame. We thank the Zeeland Boosters for this amazing award. And we say congratulations to all the 2019 inductees. All of you have represented Zeeland so proudly. Everyone loved Gene simply because he loved everyone. Gene had consecutive years as the state wrestling champion. His junior year, he was 185-pound weight class and 191 weight class his senior year. In football, of his senior year, he was given the honors of conference and all-state honorable mention. Jim Reinsberger, as his coach, was the driving force that taught him to love not only the sport, but to love everyone around him. Gene had a smile on his face, a trait that my sister and I are most complimented on. Standing at 6'3", Gene was strong yet gentle, especially as he became a dad to me and my sister. Gene was always positive. He was a man of God that loved everyone. He was dependable and he was caring. Gene was everyone's friend. Gene's legacy lives on in the lives of his grandchildren, Dirk, Millie, Lottie, and Montgomery. On behalf of my mom, Jody, my sister, Gina, my grandparents, Terry and Kay Kraai, the Kraai siblings, Dan, Dave, Keith, Chuck, Steve, and Diane, we thank you for this award. Thank you.